This is an article that was written by St. Edith Stein on the 12th of January 1932, and it's called Ways to Interior Silence. In the talk that I gave in November 1930 in Bendorf concerning the foundations of women's education, I tried to draw the picture of woman's soul as it would correspond to the eternal vocation of woman. And I termed its attributes as expansive, quiet, empty, empty of self, warm and clear. Now I am asked to say something regarding how one might come to possess these qualities. I believe that it is not a matter of multiplicity of attributes that we can tackle and acquire individually. It is rather a single, total condition of the soul, a condition that is envisaged here in these attributes from various aspects. We are not able to attain this condition by willing it. It must be effected through grace. What we can and must do is open ourselves to grace. That means to renounce our own will completely and to give it captive to the divine will, to lay our whole soul ready for reception and formation into God's hands. Becoming empty and still are closely connected. The soul is replenished by nature in so many ways that one thing always replaces another, and the soul is in constant agitation, often in tumult and uproar. And the duties and cares of the day ahead crowd about us when we awake in the morning, if they have not already dispelled our night's rest. Now arises the uneasy question: how can all this be accomplished in one day? When will I do this? When that? How shall I start on this and that? Thus agitated, we would like to run around and rush forth. We must then take the reins in hand and say, "Take it easy. Not any of this may touch me now. My first morning's hour belongs to the Lord. I will tackle the day's work that He charges me with, and He will give me the power to accomplish it. So I will go to the altar of God." Psalm 43, verse 4. Here it is not a question of my minute, petty affairs, but of the great offering of reconciliation. I may participate in that, purify myself, and be made happy, and lay myself with all my doings and troubles along with the sacrifice on the altar. And when the Lord comes to me then in Holy Communion, then I may ask Him, "Lord, what do you want of me?" And after quiet dialogue, I will go to that which I see as my next duty. I will still be joyful when I enter into my day's work after this morning's celebration. My soul will be empty of that which could assail and burden it, but it will be filled with holy joy, courage, and energy. Because my soul has left itself and entered into the divine life, it has become great and expansive. Love burns in it like a composed flame that the Lord has enkindled, and that urges my soul to render love, to inflame love in others. Let charity be inflamed with fire, and ardor enkindle our neighbors. And it sees clearly the next part of the path before it. It does not see very far, but it knows that when it has arrived at that place where the horizon now intersects, a new vista will then be opened. Now begins the day's work, perhaps the teaching profession. 4 or 5 hours, one after the other. That means giving our concentration there. We cannot achieve in each hour what we want, perhaps in none. We must contend with our own fatigue, unforeseen interruptions, shortcomings of the children, diverse vexations, indignities, anxieties, or perhaps it is office work. Give and take with disagreeable supervisors and colleagues, unfulfilled demands, unjust reproaches, human meanness, perhaps also distress of the most distinct kind. It is the noon hour, and we come home exhausted, shattered. New vexations possibly await us there. Now, where is the soul's morning freshness? The soul would like to seethe and storm again. Indignation, chagrin, regret. And there is still so much to do until evening. Should we not go immediately to it? No. Not before calm sets in, at least for a moment. Each one must know, or get to know, where and how she can find peace. The best way, when it is possible, is to shed all cares again for a short time before the tabernacle. Whoever cannot do that, whoever also possibly requires bodily rest, should take a breathing space in her own room. And when no outer rest whatever is attainable, when there is no place in which to retreat, if pressing duties prohibit a quiet hour, then at least she must for a moment seal off herself inwardly against all other things and take refuge in the Lord. He is indeed there and can give us in a single moment what we need. Thus the remainder of the day will continue, perhaps in great fatigue and laboriousness, but in peace. And when night comes and retrospect shows that everything was patchwork and much that one had planned left undone, when so many things rouse shame and regret, then take all as it is, lay it in God's hands, and offer it up to Him. In this way, we will be able to rest in Him, actually rest, and begin the new day like a new life. This is only a small indication how the day could take shape in order to make room for God's grace. Each individual will know best how this can be used in her particular circumstances. It could be further indicated how Sunday must be a great door through that celestial life, It could be further indicated how Sunday must be a great door through that celestial life can enter into everyday life, and strength for the work of the entire week, and how the great feasts, holidays, and penitential times lived through and in the spirit of the church permit the soul to mature the more from year to year in the eternal Sabbath rest. It will be an essential duty of each individual to consider how she must shape her plan for daily and yearly living according to her bent and to her respective circumstances of life in order to make ready the way of the Lord. The exterior allotment must be different for each one, and it must also adjust resiliently to the change of circumstances in the course of time, but the psychic situation varies with individuals and with each individual in different times. As to the means that are suitable for bringing about union with the eternal, keeping it alive or also enlivening it anew, such as contemplation, spiritual reading, participation in the liturgy, popular services, etc. These are not fruitful for each person at all times. For example, contemplation cannot be practiced by all and always in the same way. It is important in each case to find out the most efficacious way and to make it useful for oneself. It would be good to listen to expert advice in order to know what one lacks, and this is especially so before one takes variations from a tested arrangement.